Okay,
Sorry. Technical issues. You can keep going.
yeah. So as I said, I'm the chairman of the board, and our members tonight are Don Nugebauer, Kevin Sharp, Dave Hale, Sierra Haynes, secretaries Sarah and Judas. We have our code officer, Tim Barrett is here, and our attorney, Tim Fertesi. We have one item on the agenda tonight for area variance. I'll read the advertisement. Public hearing on an application by Sarah Muller located at 4421 Watervale Road, tax parcel 0030201.0, requesting an area variance for a front yard setback in a residential district. The variance is for a partially built residential home that does not meet the front yard setback requirements of 83 feet from center line. The resident is asking for a 14.5 foot variance, giving resident approximately 65.5 feet of front setback from the center line. And just for the record, the ordinance doesn't measure from the center line, but it's a convenient way of figuring out roughly where you stand with a dimension. The ordinance says 50 feet from the street line. And I believe this is a 66 foot wide road. So from the street line to the center line is 33 feet. And the structure is supposed to be 50 feet plus the 33. So the structure should be 83 feet from the center line. This request is for 14.5 foot variance from that 50 foot setback. So it would give the setback of 35.5 feet from the street line. First thing we do is, if you haven't been here before, I have a few things to go over with the secretary about the application. And we'll read parts of the application as appropriate. I've got some things to review. And then we'll take comments and questions from the board and make sure we know where we're at, where we're going with this tonight. And then we'll if everything looks good, we'll open the hearing and let the applicant present, and then we'll with questions from the board after that, and then all the audience members wishing to speak in favor or against will listen to everyone. When we think there will be no more comments, we can close the hearing. If we think there's more information, we could adjourn the hearing to another meeting. But typically we would close the meeting and then we would discuss the application. That's all in public, so you're welcome to stay and listen to the whole thing. And we may have questions during that process for the applicant. But the audience will not be able to speak at that point once we close. We'll discuss the application and with the help of our attorney, we'll review the 5 criteria that we have to consider, and the end result being that board members have to weigh the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the community, and we will go through that. And if we are satisfied and we have enough information to make a decision, we will vote on it. So that's the procedure for the meeting. Okay, I've read the advertisement. So has the application fee been paid?
Yes.
Okay, it's properly advertised
Yes.
and the neighbor notice has been sent.
Yes.
Okay. And this software applications require county planning review, but this is a residential area variance and for our agreement with the county, no review is required. The application kind of lengthy. Okay. Read it. Or application is from dated October 13th, 23 from Sarah Muller, right here. Seeking a front yard setback variance for existing house under construction at 4421 Watervale Road. It's signed by Sarah Muller. And her representative, who is here tonight, is Tom Oot of Build Your Own Homes in East Syracuse. Has anyone, I've received some letters, at least one letter. You have a new map tonight. Does anybody else have anything that's they received since the application? No,
Not I. No.
Okay. I received a letter from Tom Boot, October 10th regarding this issue. And stating the applicant's concern and issue and that the building is too close to the road and code officer appropriately issued a stop work order and general question of what should the applicant do? After discussion with Tim Barrett and Tim Fratesi, the suggestion was to apply for an area variance, which they have done. Curious thing is that a survey attached to the letter by Seguin Land Surveying is dated August 29th, 2022. This applicant was before this board just about 1 year ago today, November 14th. And for an application for a variance on the size of the lot and the depth of the lot. And considered both of those and granted those two variances. At that meeting, we were given a survey dated August 23rd of 2022. 6 days previous to the one that gotten this letter. That this board did approve the variances for the lot size and for the depth of the lot. There was no discussion about the setback of the building because if you look at the survey we had at that time, it shows the building at 50 feet, actually 51 feet back from the street line. So there was no need to discuss it. It's not in the minutes.
Dave, this is a quick question.
Yes.
The two surveys I'm looking at, the one that's dated August of last year actually shows 50 feet. And the one you just handed us shows 51 feet. Is there any other difference besides that 1 foot, which doesn't seem?
The 51 feet on this survey we just received tonight is from the edge of the pavement. And the ordinance does not measure from the edge of the pavement. The ordinance measures from the street line. And the road boundary in this we're looking at tonight. Street line. And the building should be 50 feet back from that street line, which is shown on the August 23rd survey that we reviewed a year ago. So the issue is it's not built to that survey that we looked at. And the survey that the code officer received shows the same 50 feet from the street line. That's what he based his building permit on.
So just to be clear,
Yes.
the application for the building permit had the August 23rd, 2022 survey, which was presented to this board last year when they did the area variance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, is that true?
So this, the new survey came attached to the letter that I got October 10th. And at that time, I talked to Tim Barra, and he had not seen that survey. And that's not what he based his building permit on. So we have two surveys for this project, which is not acceptable. And we have a discrepancy, definitely. So the only other thing I have to add is the survey that did come in tonight. And this one is dated October 30th of this year. This is more of an as-built. And it shows building as-built, and from the center line, it says 31.4 feet. And again, it shows 51 feet from the edge of the pavement, which has nothing to do with our ordinance.
From the boundary line, that's
The
31.4.
boundary, road boundary.
Which is the standard that's used to determine.
Right away or.
Yes. Yes, whether it's or right of way, it's what we use to measure with. It's what our ordinance calls for.
Just to make sure I understand, it should be 50 feet from the road boundary.
Yes,
Total of 80.
and that's what was shown to us on the map when they were here a year ago. This is a copy that I still got my notes on it from that meeting. And you'll see 50 feet from the road boundary.
That's
Well, 829,
Isn't that
Last
this one?
year, this is 20.
Yeah, there's three at some.
In the package that I printed out, I've got an 829 of 22.
that was the survey dated with the variance, apparently.
When we met,
Nope,
or is that the second one? Is that the 29th or the
Yeah,
23rd?
With this application
with this application.
for tonight.
Now we have another one.
Now there's a third one.
Yes. The third one most closely matches with the second one, which shows the building 30 plus or minus feet from the road boundary. But the one that we based the permit on and the original variance on shows 50 feet from the road boundary.
All around.
Well, I don't know that it's as important to find out who or how or why. We have this situation and we have to do something about it. So I don't know if
But that's,
We ready to ask.
that's the one that was submitted with the, but that's the whole point. It was submitted with the building application and it was submitted when the area variance was requested last year.
I just never seen it. Is that prepared by Sequin too?
Yeah.
And it showed that also application?
Yeah.
I have a copy of it. Lots of.
It was actually 29.
Yeah, that's the one that he was supposed to get submitted. And this is. Setback revisions. I don't have an answer for that. That wasn't the intent, was to see what happened.
Yeah. So this is a new variance and application. I guess that's all I've got. Any questions from the board? I know you've asked a couple. Dave, you got questions or you want to?
What, so you're saying that the building permit was submitted with the original dimensions of that property? For
The building permit
Mhm.
was submitted with a survey that this board reviewed
Right.
last year at this time to grant the original variance. And that survey showed the building 51 feet or 50, at least 50 feet
Yeah.
from the road boundary.
Okay, that's particular survey that came with the application. We don't have that tonight.
No,
David just.
I have it.
Yeah, David is with his notes on it.
Okay,
yes, that is the one.
That's the
that we
one
reviewed.
we said our variance, did the variance on. That was the survey map.
and that's 51 to the road boundary.
Looks like it's a little more than that
I
50
think what
feet.
you're saying is it's only 32 now to the road boundary.
Yes.
Okay, so the variance needed is 18 feet. It's 50 minus 32.
Yeah,
Yes,
based on the as-built that was provided to.
yeah, based on that.
With the variance application from October of this year.
Yeah.
And the map that was submitted tonight.
Both of these surveys, not the third one, but both of them show a dashed line for a 50-foot setback.
Right.
Right up to the property. That's not shown on the one we got tonight. I don't get it.
Up the corner. I don't get it. Why? I
Yeah.
don't get it. Why? How did we get here? Wow, so the person that laid out this thing. Is he here tonight?
Sitting surveyor, I wish he was.
No, the person who laid out the building.
Yeah,
Well, I can tell you what I see.
I think. Ready to listen to the applicant?
Sure.
I think Sarah said.
Open the meeting.
Each one of your both.
When the surveyor prepared the proposed plot plan, he's physically going to the property. So he did a paper survey based on a 50-foot setback. When he goes out to the property to set stake the house, do the offset stakes, they realized the limestone escarpment in the back and the condition of the lot, it was not feasible to push it back that far. I just, Sarah can attest to this, that without taking that rock wall down and a lot of trees, it would be more destructive. And I think that is why. But again, I never saw the 23rd, the survey of August 23rd. I've never seen it until tonight.
If you get into that situation, wouldn't you contact Pompey or the code enforcer and say, hey, we got a problem here. I can't put the building where it belongs.
Well, Sarah did the original variances on her own, and I assume because the second survey, the one that, the August 29th survey, I thought that was the one that got submitted with the building permit, because it was so much, the meeting was in November, you would assume that would have been used at the meeting.
Just to elaborate on that, I actually did not submit the survey. That was submitted with the building permit. And I assumed it was the 829 version because that is what I approved. So when I submitted the variance application, it was based on what I understood was the permit application that was and accompanying survey. So I did not know until this all came up that the incorrect survey was submitted.
I think she's right. I think Penny from our office is the one who submitted it. She's not there anymore, but that's my guess. But in reality, when they went out to do the physical staking of it. And again, it's the other one with the street line, and I told Tim, everybody arguing with it, but this is, she owns the fee to the center line of the road. This is not a dedicated road. It's not conveyed out. It's not a case where the county actually has fee ownership of it. Actually, it's an easement by prescriptive over a period of time in continuous use. And based on that, the area of occupation is only there with blacktop, the pavement.
No, it's not.
No, I've never heard of such a.
That's not true.
You know, there's-
No, it would be the area in which the town maintains.
Yeah.
And here there's a stone wall
right.
that kind of indicates where that easement is and where the town maintains.
They don't utilize the stone wall.
At the right of way, they could, that's why it's called the right of way.
Even.
If you want to dig a ditch through
This is a road by use is what we.
I'm just saying there's no legal instrument from the record.
No, but again, a road by use is the width that the town maintains.
Right, but it's prescriptive.
We've been going by the right of way for our measurements for
Yes,
as long as I've been on this board.
yeah. Hey.
One more, just make sure, again, I understand, so. We all looked at a wrong survey, and when they came out to state where the house should be. At that point, they didn't think that they had any issue because. A survey that was approved, they didn't know was incorrect,
They thought the 29th survey was.
Yes,
but they also realized that where they were staking the house, it couldn't be because of the rock wall.
But the problem is the
Effect.
building permit had a survey.
Exactly.
And that's what the building permit was based on. So whoever put the house where they put it wasn't looking at the building permit when they placed the house where it is.
yeah,
That's the problem. Whoever placed the house on the lot wasn't looking at the building permit.
The surveyor did the offset stake, so he should have said something.
Exactly. We should have said something. Or you roll the dice and figured, nobody will catch you.
Yeah, I don't want to bring attention to my screw up.
yeah.
That's how I see it. And this is a minor issue, but for what it's worth, the August 29th of last year. The length of the garage side of the house was 45 feet, if I can see it, and what was built was 48.4. So if I'm reading that correctly, not only did they not pay attention to the correct survey, they went and built something bigger.
Yeah, this is 13.
No, you look at this, 48.4, that whole side,
17, and that's.
and it was 45. So they didn't even build it according to the plan. So they disregarded the survey and disregarded the plan. And now want a variance.
Who was the builders? Who was the builders of the house?
Technically, to build your own home, we basically help Sarah, see that she's her own builder. And we basically guide her through the process. Been doing it for 35 years.
Yeah.
But the house size did not change. Did it?
According to the survey, it did.
Garage looks closer to the road.
The August survey,
The August, which the 23rd,
29th is the only one I'm looking at. Right
and that shows the depth of what?
The south side in the one survey is 45 and the updated 48.4.
The 48.3 citing up to 48.
Well, and there's, the other side is different too. The other side of the garage, the one for tonight is 17.6 and the 29th is 13.
Right, it's all different.
Yeah, they're all different. The one that Sarah submitted to us is different than the one that we were just handed.
Yeah, the one we were just handed is as built.
Should be the same as the August 29th. There were no changes to the house.
The one we,
We just.
The August 29th. survey shows 48 feet.
Not here, does it?
The one we based our variance on
That's
is
40 or 45?
August 23rd.
The 23rd, right? Yeah. But
48.
44, the one in our email, I can't read.
It looks like 48.
But this side is.
Okay,
That's 13.
Yeah,
That,
the north side of that garage is different dimensions.
Yeah, it's 13 and some people, yeah.
There's 4 foot difference there. Well, they maybe the porch. Included.
August 29th.
What shows the porch, the roof line of that porch? So I'm looking at it like. Yes, to the side.
Right.
So Tim, is there a checklist that you have that you, when you go to the sites?
Yeah, with
To sign off on? Yeah. And you, I mean, I'm not putting you on a spot. So what is this foundation is signed off, correct? Yeah.
Construction complete,
What date of that foundation was signed off?
80%, 90%.
It had to go.
80%. Through drywall and HVAC,
They poured in the middle of
just finishing.
It was, yeah. Where,
So how did this come to your attention, Tim? What
that would be my next question, yeah.
The fact that
How did this, who spotted it or who saw the discrepancy?
Nearby, so I went down and checked it.
How did the resident find this? Are you the resident that found it?
I'm the resident.
How did you obtain the measurement?
that we're not, we haven't opened it
Yeah.
yet.
Okay.
I think we should do that, but
So it was brought to Tim's attention, he
Yeah.
went out and he measured it, and then he determined that the building was closer to the
I
road
get that.
and
So this resident, did you go on the property?
No, I measured from the center line of the road with a Bosch laser measure.
Okay.
4 times,
That would work.
just to make sure. I'm an architect, so I'm.
No, I heard that last time. Yep.
Yeah, I'm used to doing that, and that's how I field measure. The reason it became an issue that I looked at was because vehicles were having a tremendous amount of difficulty backing into the driveway or parking in the driveway, because it was too short.
all right.
And it's a hazard because of the number.
All right, we'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, we have a
I'll
motion.
second.
Okay. Anybody, all in favor of opening the hearing? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
okay, so for the record, at least let's get the names of people who already spoke. Go ahead.
Paul Billings, architect,
And what's your address?
4407 Watervale. I'm the next door neighbor. I'm on the south side of the adjoining property.
yeah, the survey, the as-built, has billings, and you own frontage on Watervale and some land behind this
All
property
the land
too?
behind it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want, anything else you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, when I spoke to Tim's office, I remarked to him that apparently the measuring from the center line of the road to the foundation was 17.5 feet too close to the right of way. And that's why I brought it to Tim's attention. My obligation as an architect, if I see a code or municipal violation, my license says I have to report it to the jurisdiction, which I did.
Okay.
And then Tim took it from there.
All right. Thank you. Who else? You, yes.
I'm Russ Haynes. I live at 4390 Watervale. And one thing I wanted to jump on when we were talking about parking is, and the fact that cars were hard to get in and out of there. Nobody does a speed limit down there, and we've had this issue forever, and that's just gonna cause an issue in the future, going in and out. My second question is, if the foundation was fine, how did the house become too close? I don't understand that one thing.
Well,
I measured to the foundation.
right, before the frame was up. Okay,
There was no framing on the house at the time.
And what was the date that you notified Tim?
Oh, it was quite a while ago. He's been going through this for quite a while.
yeah,
You know, I talked to Renee and I talked to Tim.
I was not made aware of this until after the house was cited. So I'm not sure. I have the date here, I think it was October 10th. But that's when I was alerted to this.
For this year?
Yes.
Wow.
okay. Anybody else? Comments?
I just have a question.
Oh, let me. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to remark, as you said, a year ago, we were here. And the board granted an area variance because the lot was too small. And as my memory serves me correctly, the approval was based on not a building, but the future building meeting all setback requirements as required.
Yes.
Which we would do.
Yeah.
The grievance of having it too close to the highway boundary, in my experience, is just a cardinal mistake. It's something you check 5 times, 6 times before you start foundation work. That was a year ago, and the applicant was granted the approval to go ahead and start construction of the home. And here it is a year later, and the applicant is asking you for yet another variance to allow the house to be where it is. Now, being next door, my office faces the lot. I look at that lot 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know exactly what's going on. I know who's on site. I know exactly what they're doing. And obviously, the excavation for the foundation was made considerably past the back of the house. But it wasn't built there. It was built quite a bit up.
Can you just say that part again? I'm not sure I followed on that. When you talk about the foundation being built,
Yes, with a Bosch laser. It's a laser measure
right?
from the center line of the road.
What were you
Any
saying?
reference to the back of the house.
You're saying the excavation was done to the back of the house for it to be back there.
Well, it still is.
In your opinion,
It still is the way. I can share the concerns of the applicant because it's an unstable hill. It's all rock. Where it is right now is no stabilization. It is subject to fault because those rocks do move. There was an opportunity at the time to build the house farther back with architectural modification. You have to accommodate the site. And the house plan itself is designed for a flat site. We don't live in a flat world. So you have to look at it and you have to go out there and you have to make accommodations for what the site is doing. In this particular case, and I know Tom would do the same thing, that if you cannot excavate or you cannot put it where it needs to be, you change the design. But in no way, shape, or form would anybody knowingly want to build a house encroaching a county road highway boundary. Nobody.
And then
so.
if they needed to, they could come and see us ahead of time. before
Yeah.
They built.
That's
the
why
property.
you guys are here.
Would you say in that rock is that unstable, that karst topography, but it's just loose? It's not heavy bedrock or solid?
It's not solidified. It's all stones in varying sizes from a boulder to the size of a small VW.
And
And it goes up another 125 feet.
Yeah.
I own the entire hill behind the applicant's house. So I went to the backyard because I was concerned because it's not that stable to begin with. And now you're excavating the base. So is the hill gonna move? I don't know.
I mean, it would have been worse if you pushed it back further.
Pardon me?
It would have been worse though if you pushed it back further.
No, it actually would have been created a retaining wall, Tom.
Or the house would be the
The
retaining.
house would have had to been a retaining wall.
So you're saying that shelf of rocks that we see from the road is your property?
Yes,
So you're liable if those rocks come down out of there onto her property?
I have,
not if they cause it.
I have some of it's not right behind the house. I mean, I have some of the
You
shelf.
have some of the stone?
Yes, and then at the top is then his property.
There are two levels. It goes
Right.
up a bit,
It's a
flat,
terrace like, yeah.
and then it goes up sheer.
Mhm.
This one, it starts to level out at the top behind the Sarah's place. Right, almost to the vertical rock. That's my property.
Okay,
Looks like 70 or 80 feet behind the house.
Yep.
Okay.
There was a large excavator there with a jackhammer on it for 2 weeks. Hammering through to where it is to this day.
Yeah.
Because I'm retired and I heard it all day long. And I understand it's, construction, you're gonna hear noises.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you that in the fact that I know how long it was there because I heard it all day. And they just kept trying to hammer through it.
is there a full cellar under this house?
Yes, full basement, yeah. They hauled about 10 loads of rock off the site.
Yeah, there was a big pile on the neighbor's side there for quite a while.
Yep.
Anything else? Comments?
The
Questions?
driveway. So what is the actual dimensions of the driveway now? From the corner of the garage to the water building? To the driveway edge, to the road edge, pavement.
Edge of pavement, okay, so it's 31.4 to the road boundary, but that is not the edge of pavement, and then. I have to do a little math here.
Like my reason for asking.
65.
Right,
So you've got room to park a car
there's
there.
plenty of room for a car. I could see, with big trucks, yes, could be an issue, but there's plenty of room for a car.
So you're not. Your vision isn't obscured for anything backing out or
No,
as far as the traffic, that's an enforcement issue. If there's cars speeding there. I see the sign that says 40 miles an hour blinking. If you're going over it, it blinks. That's been there quite a while. I mean, the sheriffs do patrol it. I've seen them on there.
So she's probably gonna want a backup spot by the garage.
A turnaround.
Yeah, so just.
Hammerhead or something.
Pull out straight, which is typical.
I visited a site. It was up, the framing was up back in the spring. And I backed out of there. I was able to see backing out.
and I'm not exactly sure of the house number, but further down the road, a few houses down on the Pompey side, that house, without measuring, just visually appears to be closer to the road.
Mhm.
So it's not inconsistent with a nearby home.
May I add to that? Every house on the road, with the exception of Kelly Roach and Steve's, is at least 75 feet off the highway boundary. The house that is closest to where Sarah's was built, if there is a closeness, would be Carl's house, but that's in the town of Manlius. And that's still a good 75, 80 feet off the road. Sarah's house is virtually, and we've had people say, come and ask, why is that house on the road? It neither here nor there, but point I'm trying to make is this is about zoning. It's about setbacks, and it's about the caveat that this board issued to the applicant at the time of the approval. This board said that she had to confirm that all other setback dimensional criteria was met. It wasn't. End of case. Period. That's
true.
I mean, I'm sympathetic.
No, I get it. There's a lot of money
I've
invested
seen
right
that.
now.
I sat on a ZBA in Clay for 4.5 years. I know you want to solve problem. But bending the zoning doesn't solve it.
I believe that the contractors were under the impression that the 29th survey was what was presented to this board.
because it was 3 months before your hearing for the first ZBA. And but the surveyor not saying anything, how could we assume otherwise?
But the only problem with that is building permit was submitted. The building permit application was
I
submitted
agree.
by somebody. I don't know who,
The people in
with those dimensions.
They're not the people in the field.
Somebody's got to be accountable for this.
Somebody is submitting an application, a building permit application with a survey. Who's doing that?
And I did request copies of everything that was submitted, but was informed that copies were not made, and so I assumed the plan that I approved was what was submitted.
Still think the surveyor.
And what a,
Responsibility lies with the general contractor to verify that the building is in the location it was designed to be. Sarah is the general contractor.
yes,
Again, she came to this earlier hearing alone. She didn't have any guidance. I mean, I think it's a mistake. It shouldn't have been made, but it was made. And the surveyor should have spoke up when he deviates from his original plot plan and relocates the house.
And just, the foundation was approved, and I did check, it was actually October 5th that I was notified, so. When it was brought to the attention, I have no idea, but I was not made aware until October 5th.
Of last year,
No, this year.
the foundation was approved.
The foundation was approved. Yes, the foundation was approved. The footer approved in January, the foundation
Okay, that's.
in April of this year.
And nothing said.
If I may,
yes,
when a code enforcement officer does a foundation inspection, it's not measuring to anything. It is whether or not the method of construction and the materials were as specified by the architect. It has nothing to do with the location.
I agree, yeah.
Nothing.
If you saw a substantial deviation, I would think you would have said something.
Then you would say something.
I personally think the house as it's set right now for the adjoining neighbors, it's a better location than pushing it back further. I think it works with the topography, it works with the vegetation, works with the trees.
It's not what we approved.
No, I got that.
yes,
Well, I just want to finish off by saying, kind of jumping on what he said, okay, we sat here, probably roughly 14 neighbors sat here, discussed this with you guys. All had issues with it. It's less than an acre. The setting is not right. The rocks are there. We all know how it was gonna fit, or had an idea that a house isn't gonna fit in there. We tried to explain that to you guys, because we've been there forever, okay? Now it goes up. It's wrong. They come back here for more variance, but in the interim, whenever Tim put that stop work order on, they were there almost every day working. Straight through the work order, like it was.
That's not true.
Well, it was true.
now,
Not every single day,
talk to me,
not every single day, but I would say 80% of the. Yeah, they come in and sheet rock all weekend, well after the notice went up.
Tim,
Because I spoke with-
he should have been notified. Tim.
That they came in,
That they're still working.
I believe he was, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was notified and they were granted to go in and finish sheet rocking at their own risk.
There were 2 weeks between when the stop work order, when I was notified between October 5th. Where there was no work done, and then when Tim granted the completion of the sheetrocking. So there were 2 weeks when nothing was done, and then he indicated that we could continue again at my own risk.
But then the electric went in, the gas went in just less than a week ago, the
Electric
gas
was
went in.
already there.
The gas truck was there working less than a week ago, laying with this excavator and National Grid truck was there. And when you walk down by the road, you can see the gas line laying in the ditch, waiting at the edge of the road.
That's true.
So somebody was operating my point is, work was working through the stop work order. So you grant them the variance to build on less than an acre. They jam it in there, it's wrong. Now we want to move it again and grant them again. Where's the stop? The septic isn't even in yet. So, you know, what if they gotta come back and do another variance for the septic or something? Who knows? I mean,
when we approved that site for that house, we found it feasible to put a house in there. When we all agreed, put that house in there.
with the anticipation that they were gonna follow all of that's what was stated, that they were gonna follow all of that.
Backyard of that was more than reasonable to set a house back there. Not knowing, I mean, I didn't go back and do a core test to see what rock was in there, but obviously they found rock and
My house is.
they didn't have to put a full foundation under it. I've seen houses run into that same situation.
My house is built on that rock.
Yeah, they shortened the cellar so they could still put the house where.
Exactly.
Needed.
I have a walkout for that reason.
Mhm.
I sit on top of the rocks.
Yep,
And it's a simple redesign. I mean, it's not all that hard.
Yeah.
Just know what you're dealing with.
is the plumbing all done in that, Sarah?
So rough plumbing.
Rough plumbing's in.
Inspected by the county. Electrical's roughed in and inspected.
Septic,
Not yet.
But it's approved by the.
It's approved. The plan is approved, yes,
do you have a perk?
Yeah, it's conventional system.
yes.
And you're getting water from the county.
Public
Yeah.
water.
Okay, that was one thing
Right.
Yeah,
my decision was based on it. If it at least gets water, it's gonna have a well out there with a septic system on
Worried about
a
it.
small lot.
Yeah.
The National Grid gets scheduled so many months before, and you just kind of wait, and get them when you get them.
the water main ends right in the middle of the property, so
Oh, so it's right there,
it's right there, yeah.
but
But as I said, you guys in my letter that, you know, I assume that 29th survey was in front of you guys at the last hearing. I mean, I didn't know there was a 23rd, so I apologize. I mean, I don't mark every house. It's not my role. I'm sure that the secretary mailed in the permit. She probably did send in that plot plan with it. I gotta believe, though, that the plans match the services. The house didn't change. The plans that Tim has, the dimensions should match. The plans are-
Tim gets one of these as builds. He doesn't have one.
Yeah, he's 51 feet off the flat now.
Yeah.
That doesn't count for much. because,
No.
As far as the character of the neighborhood and such.
Yeah.
And I think in good faith, I see what happened. There's no excuse for mistakes, but I think the surveyor had an obligation to speak up. He knew there was a 50-foot setback and he knew where he put the stakes.
Has he been contacted at
I
all?
just texted him tonight. Well, the address is right.
I would love to have him sitting here tonight to ask him what
I
happened.
would like to too. I mean,
I could get him.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's, he used to work for Jack Cottrell, and seriously, we went up under them.
He worked for Jack, did he?
Yeah, he just where he trained.
What's his name?
Forrest Siegel, he's on Chittenango now. He's a nice guy, I mean, but I mean, but Sarah just got the address on the house in front of.
I don't know if it's, I don't want to use the word admissible, but I do have a text message from the neighbor directly across the street who fully supports the application. And he was willing to write a letter to the town. Again, I don't know if that's material or not, but I just wanted to share that.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
There's one next to me that's couldn't be here tonight. That would be willing to write a letter opposing it, so.
Okay,
I talked to her, she couldn't make it.
yeah,
The neighbor across the street. So, yeah, we know him quite well.
I did not work had an opportunity to look at it, so maybe always, I guess some people that didn't.
There, on the back of the house, which would be the west side, what is that little guard out there?
The dining room.
Okay.
anything else, If we, close the hearing, and do some deliberating or?
I would. Don't mind just asking the neighbors a question.
No, yeah.
So even though I know what you said, the fact of the matter is this board does grant variances, and so that's the purpose of this. So it's not necessarily that they have to look at a situation and do the balancing. There has to be a detriment. So what is the detriment of the home being that close to the road in your opinion as the neighbors?
Well,
Well,
I'll talk for 10 seconds, then you can talk a little bit more eloquently, better than I can. Zach Smith, 4347 Waterville Road. Here we are again. So the house is too close to the street. It is not in keeping with everything they have built in the 50s and 60s. It does not match.
Okay, could you?
Sorry, it does not match the neighborhood. It matches the Manly side, it does not match the Pompey side. We pointed this out. It is too close to the road. It's not even architecturally the same as the structures around it, right? It's smaller, it's closer, it sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't know how you're gonna put any vegetation in front of it, right? You have the huge limestone hill behind it. We felt the jackhammer for 2 weeks.
I don't understand. What do you mean it sticks out like a sore thumb? You don't like the design of the house?
As you come down Waterville Road, as I turn on my driveway, I can see the house. I can't see anyone else's house. When I come out of turn left on Water Road, start heading north, the house is right there at the bottom of the hill. I can't see any of my other neighbors' houses. Everything has a setback, right? This house is immediately on the street. I work in emergency services, and you can park a car in front of that. I don't care what line of sight you had. People are doing 60, 70 through there at night.
Okay, that's a law enforcement. If there's a
I get it's law enforcement, it's a safety issue, right?
call the police.
You do.
Police won't come unless
There's an
the town
accident.
pays for it.
Yeah,
But that's all in keeping with it not being part of the community in the area it's in. You understand it? I get it's a police matter, but it's not in keeping with the neighborhood. We keep going through this.
I just wanted, you said it stuck out like a sore thumb.
It's a white house right on the road.
I just was under the impression you didn't like the design of the house.
No,
Okay,
it's great if it was not right on Waterville Road. It does not,
that's why I was clarifying. Okay. It was,
it's not the same size as the other houses in the neighborhood.
well, that's the difference in people.
I
It's.
understand that, but it's a neighborhood. It's Pompey. It's supposed to be on 2 acres. I get the residential, the zoning. I get what is it? what
No,
zoning is.
that's,
I
that's not a
understand, I know,
neighborhood.
I'm getting it from all sides. I said, I understand now what zone it's in,
Mhm.
but it's not in keeping with the town of Pompey.
thank you.
Thank you.
One of the aspects of having it there is an economic damage to the adjoining properties. That house, not commenting on the architecture. Architecture is a personal taste. You like it, you don't, it doesn't matter. If it's what the owner wanted, then it's what the owner wanted. But in this particular case, it does not fit into the character of the neighborhood to a degree where that it's causing economic damage to the adjoining properties because it makes our properties worth less. And I've had realtors tell me that. I've had people look at the situation and said, and is this injurious to the existing neighbors? Of course it is. Because your house now would sell for thousands less than it would if there was nothing there.
But
You know,
that's not the issue.
it's not, no,
That's not the issue.
But I'm speaking as a professional, as an architect, okay? And speaking at Anderson on zoning, I am livid with adherence to the zoning. It's for the public good. Period. It's the rules by which a civilized society lives by. We follow the rules. Now, if you keep forgiving and forgiving and forgiving, where does that end? Where do you draw the line in the sand? Where do you say no more? Okay, what's next? You say, well, there's nothing.
We
We
got,
didn't think there'd be anything next a year ago. We're back here again. Now, I have nothing against the applicant. God bless her building, wherever you. It's perfectly fine. I certainly respect Tom, you know, in his business, nothing. An error was made. An error was made doesn't mean you have to correct. Period. You didn't follow the rules. Make it right. You know, I was in a courtroom with Roger Scott. And he thought that his application was perfectly.
Why do you bring that up?
Well, you perfectly justifiable. Well, I don't believe that Mr. Major thought it was. And you saw and you know what happened to Roger's place.
But there was an intentional, and I think I hope the board can see that there was an error. And it was, I wasn't involved at the time, so I don't know exactly how it transpired, but obviously with the surveys that we had, a number of surveys, something happened. It wasn't planned for. And you can see how the guys in the field assumed the variance covered. They didn't get to read the minutes. They didn't really know what was covered by the variance. So I didn't even.
I disagree with that. They applied for a permit with the survey map. And that's it.
And we were looking at the 29th survey. Well, we had, I don't know what sheet the girl said.
It just goes back when we approved the variance.
Right. Well,
The permit.
we weren't present at that point either. You know, I mean, again, I can see how the 29th survey got thought to be the one that was.
Actually, the 29th survey is not
I
correct.
guess it comes down to practical difficulty. Because it's an audience.
So we must start.
Compliance with the building permit is the responsibility of the general contractor or the construction manager. Period.
And Sarah hired a
Contractor is. sitting right there.
contractor to build this house.
You can't, you know, it's nice to, you know, I'm not blaming people. I'm not blaming the surveyor or blaming this. I'm telling you where the responsibility lies, and it's not punitive. It's just that
Yeah,
is
for a lawyer to
the rules of the industry. It lies with the general contractor. That's what they get paid to do.
So we're here. to
But you're
listen.
not the general contractor.
He is the general contractor. See, under the auspices, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Hired someone to build the house.
Yes,
In my opinion, that's the general contractor to build that house.
Build your own home really means you are the builder.
right.
It's a, you know, there's a lot of, Paul knows it because we've done it so long, but, again,
I'm sure you signed a contract.
Right.
she did the variance on her own, and I did, whatever.
Right. You did the variance and we approved it.
Right, but I did not submit a plot plan with the variance because I was going off of the plot plan that I had approved and which I understood was submitted by Builder Own Home.
So you you showed him the plan or the variance that you were allowed to the surveyor. And the ball starts rolling. Permit was issued.
I don't think we ever saw a variance.
The permit that I have is a one-page permit
Issued at
that
that
just, it doesn't have a plot plan attached to it. So that was gonna be another
The
question,
variance was for
but that,
the lot size.
Yeah.
It wasn't for
Yeah.
it wasn't for, so
Correct.
the lot size was approved as less than the lot
What
that is allowed in the town.
was a non-conforming lot that we approved to have a house.
Once you know that, once you have that approval, you still have to meet the setback requirements.
Right.
And
Well,
this board was presented with a survey with a building on it, which it wasn't necessary, frankly, but it was provided.
Yeah.
And then that same survey was used in the application for a building permit. So,
That was presented for a building permit.
correct.
The building permit was issued that night.
No, it's not.
it was the next day, it was emailed, but it's,
When was the building? I mean,
Yeah, it could have been the next day, same week.
okay.
it doesn't have a survey attached to it.
But
That's
our
where
office
I
never
think,
saw the variance, so we didn't know what was.
The variance was only for the lot size.
But you hired a contractor to build your house.
Subcontract.
subcontractor, I guess.
Well,
I don't
we're-
understand the legalities.
Again, I don't think there was any intent.
I have not met with the surveyor.
Doesn't matter.
The standard.
Intent doesn't, has no bearing here.
Before they go.
I think this build your own house is kind of like, so you can do this, right? So who's responsible? Can't even figure it out. But I agree with but I agree with, somebody came to the board and said, we'd like a variance because the lot size is not up to standards. And we granted that variance. That's the only variance we were
If
asking
they built the
for.
house back 20 feet, we wouldn't be here.
Well, that's the only variance that we asked for, and just because you have the variance doesn't
Put
mean
the
you
house
can do
where it
anything else
belongs.
you want.
We wouldn't be here.
Right. I applied just for the area variance.
And
based on
granted,
Instruction from the surveyor after review of the permit application. So that is why I proceeded with the area application. During the meeting, a depth variance was also issued.
what was the last thing you just said?
The depth, there was a depth variance.
So the size and the depth of the lot was.
170.
Instead of 200 feet, so
Right.
2 variances were granted,
Technically two.
yes.
Yes.
But again, whatever variance were granted, it doesn't mean you can just avoid other codes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's what did happen.
In another variance application, a third application for the setback should have been commenced right then. When the surveyor or whoever decided that this is the position of the house. And that's.
Yeah.
The building permit was granted based on this not meeting code.
Right, and nobody said anything.
No. Granted,
No.
It was meeting it with their building permit application. It was the
Based on that
50 some feet back from the 23rd.
They staked it in the field, somehow it got me closer to the road, probably because of the physical condition
Right at that
on
line.
the site. At that point, they should have come in,
Absolutely.
you know, but again, I don't.
Guys, that's why we'll do this.
And that's one thing I know.
But the surveyor should have said
Pay
that he
attention.
owns the house.
Right. Yes.
If I could ask, if the house is built 6 inches, 1 foot different from the survey, does that typically happen?
No,
So it should be,
that's why we.
Dead nuts right on.
Do a plot plan.
yeah,
We normally say if the setback is 50 feet, we stake it for 52. Because-
Let me answer your specific question. Purposes of the construction of the building, it can change on the lot.
Yes.
That's not what's at issue here. What's at issue is the setbacks.
right.
So if a house on a survey, on the initial survey shows it's gonna be 60 foot front wall.
Yeah.
But because of stone or because of some water issues, they make it a 59 foot, then you have an as-built that comes once it's all built. So this is supposed to be the as-built.
Yes.
This is how the house was built. It doesn't always directly match the initial survey that was provided or plot plan that was provided.
But it's usually within a few inches or a foot or something.
Yeah, the only time that comes into play is if there is a maximum coverage issue.
Yeah.
And the house was already at maximum coverage, then the dimensions of the house would be absolutely critical. But other than that, you have some fluidity
Usually.
to be able to make modifications. Yes, you do.
Well, I think we've hashed it over pretty good.
Paul, if this wasn't within sight of your residence, would you have an issue with it?
Yes,
Were you here last month for a height variance that we requested or we approved on a large barn?
didn't get a notification for
Right, because you weren't within the, was it 1,000 feet?
Don Poppy Center Road.
Yeah, nobody, I didn't get
it.
it.
No idea. But if, you know, it's not, I'm not really here and I'm not talking to the board purely as a neighbor, but as a design professional.
No, it's helpful.
You know, I've gone through this 1,000 times. Hal Nasser tore a house down because it was 2 feet too close to a corner lot.
Who paid for that?
Hal Nasser, the owner. Period. It's a mistake. It's an unfortunate mistake. Sometimes mistakes have enormous ramifications. But you fix it. Nobody tried to tell him, well, we'll work it out with you to make it okay. No, not okay. It just is not okay.
All right. Thank you. Any further questions? Are we ready to close the hearing?
Need a motion to close?
We do.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Close the hearing. Have a second. Second. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Hearing is closed. Now. What are we gonna do with this? You know, I mean, the rules are we could approve it as requested, we could deny it. We could approve it with some conditions. I personally can't think of any conditions. As usual, if they request 15 feet, we can say we'll back at 12 feet. I don't see any advantage to that here.
Could you spend a minute talking about the actual variance that's needed?
For us to make it comply.
I think like 18 feet.
The as-built goes 31.4 feet from the road boundary.
But don't we need
So-
18.6 variance?
We need 18.6.
Okay, that answers my question.
And given what we've been hearing from the architect, and I've heard it 100 times too. I've been on these boards for a lot of years, including town of Clay. If you need 18.6, ask for 18. So you got
19.
That's for
19, ask for 19, so you've got a little wiggle room. So if we're going to, if we were to issue a variance, I'd make sure it's they've got some extra room there. But that's what the request should be. A variance of 19 feet from the 50-foot that's required. Any thoughts? Any motion? I mean, like I said, I don't see anything but a yes or no on this one.
If we deny this request.
That's up to the applicant, the owner.
How's enforced? How's the code enforcement officer?
Yeah, the stop work order would continue until they rectify the situation.
No certificate of occupancy would be issued.
No, so, yeah.
You could slide it back 14 foot.
Good.
Yeah, because their garage, I mean,
Cut
the
the-
garage is almost
Cut the garage off,
the feet.
cut your steel bolts, slide it back. Pour a slab behind it, slide it back.
Yeah. Anything can be done.
Isn't the standard practical difficulties for an area variance?
No,
No.
no, the standard is the balancing test, which we're gonna go through in probably a minute or so.
Yeah. We will do that before we vote, so.
Yeah.
We should do that. Now, we're ready.
If Paul have measured this and brought it to Tim's attention. Prior to a CO being given, are there any measurements taken? Is there any enforcement of inspections and codes prior to a CO being issued? If Tim went out there before the CO was issued, does he go out there and he measure this and say, well, no, this isn't? At what point should this have been caught?
You would get the as-built survey before the CO. I
Yeah.
gave it to you tonight.
Yeah.
I had him do that.
Yeah, he wouldn't have issued a certificate of occupancy based on this survey.
After the whole thing is all said, all built, finished, 100% done. right?
Yeah, it's. As we heard, the CO, when he's looking at construction, Tim, you could speak to this much better than I. I'm not a code enforcement officer or a building inspector, but they're looking at the construction component of the building. They're not looking at all at the setbacks, unless it's obvious to them that it's not being met. We assume that the survey that the person building the house is building it, it's going to the town code. The building permit is really construction related.
Yes.
It's not zoning related.
That's interesting.
I think we review the standards, criteria. Now, there's a response. I moved a long verbal response on all of these. Criteria. Did I read it all? One at a time? Okay. You'll read these from our application, which is on the form. Okay, number one, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method. The response is the relief sought by the petitioner owner cannot be achieved by any other feasible method based on the fact that the new home constructed has been substantially completed as of this date. The cost of moving the existing foundation and home currently constructed would be prohibitive. In addition, the topographical features existing on the property, particularly a rock escarpment toward the rear or west side of the property, would not be conducive for the placement of the ranch style floor plan currently being constructed. You know, we've already talked about, yes, you could move it. You could reconfigure the foundation to fit the rock wall behind. Any other comments on that one? Those are some possibilities.
Nothing else to add from me.
So you're hearing what the applicant is providing you with in terms of their responses to the balancing test. Now it's up to you to ultimately make the decision as to whether or not you agree with what the applicant is saying in response to those questions. And, or you disagree with them, or you kind of agree with them and kind of disagree with them. But as we have said in the past, it's up to you to determine how much weight you give to each of these 5 questions. You may give more weight to one over the other. But it's important that we at least kind of have a discussion as to that, you know, the specific question and your thoughts on that. Separate and distinct from what the applicant said.
Well, we talked about,
It can be achieved. Other
yeah, cutting off the garage. Maybe adding it on the end. Not have a garage. You know, those are possibilities. Leaving the whole foundation and house doesn't make sense, but you know, I think it's a possibility.
Not easy, but possible.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's possible.
Okay. I think Tim's still writing there.
No, go ahead.
Ready for number 2?
Mhm.
Whether the variance will result in an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. responses, the requested setback variance would not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood as it can be seen from the location of the existing structure now under construction. The design and placement of the existing structure being built is consistent with the neighborhood and the adjoining properties. All the homes in this vicinity or area have been required to work with and accommodate the karst topography in the area, including changes in elevation, mature tree growth, and other natural features. So undesirable change to the neighborhood. I personally think it does stick out. Sticks out better, more than almost all the houses on that section of the street.
Yep, I agree. You drive down the whole road, that house does, crowd the road.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I would agree also that, to me, it didn't look like the other houses in the neighborhood, and to me, it looks substantially closer to the road than most everything else in the area, so I think it is. I also think that those are things to get used to, but that doesn't mean it's okay.
You play devil's advocate if they had a hedgerow down the road. Just a big thicket of bushes on both sides of the driveway. You'd never see the house driving down the road.
Make that a condition.
No.
Okay.
10 years of cedar trees growing, you wouldn't see it.
They got deer there, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the.
No cedar trees. That sound good.
That's part of training. That's
Okay.
part of training.
We have a. Yeah, the response to that one.
So it seems like the consensus is that it looks different than other houses in the neighborhood.
Yes.
I think in the sense that it's closer to the road. I mean, I'd make that distinction. Like, I know people are saying it's white and not a lot of.
No.
But I want
The
to,
house is not.
right, I know. I'm just saying a lot of people brought that up and I want to,
The
I think
location of
it is different because it's closer to the road.
Okay. Number 3 says whether the requested variance is substantial. Long paragraph. The requested setback variance is not substantial as a home under construction approximately 50 feet off the edge of the asphalt or the paved portion of the county roadway known as Watervale Road. Now this gets into ownership of the property, as Mr. Hood has pointed out, they own to the center line, and he argues that we should talk about the center line. Therefore they satisfy the front yard setback because it measured from the pavement, it's 50 feet. I don't agree with that, and I don't either. We've already talked about that not being the case.
It is substantial.
I think it is substantial.
I agree.
Variance, yep.
It's more than a couple feet.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
all right. Any other comments? We'll go to item 4. Whether the variance will have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions. Requested variance will not have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions. In fact, the existing house location was intended to preserve and protect the existing natural features on the property. The existing grade or topography on the property, together with the hardwood trees that now exist, were consideration is taking into account in locating the proposed home. As limestone and escarpment and mature tree growth to the west or rear of the property would need to be removed or destroyed in order to place the structure further back on the property. The current location was selected as the most reasonable in preserving natural features on the property. Effect on physical and environmental conditions. Usually we're talking about some overland drainage there that might directly affect a neighbor. I don't see that happening here,
Effect on the environment.
not on the other, it has an effect on the appearance of a lot, but the only thing most houses do, we plant a lot of grass around our houses. And that's never native, but anyway, that's
No drain issue.
no
I mean,
drainage
physical,
issue.
can you take into account needing to basically back into the road, which is, you know, one of the concerns?
Physical or environmental conditions, yeah, should be related to that.
So I could see like, could a condition be there has to be, you know, to the north side, a turnaround there, so, you know, there's actually space to turn around, so you're pulling it out into the road instead of backing out there.
That could certainly work for a car. There's daily use, but service trucks, delivery trucks, fuel trucks,
Mhm.
they have. They probably couldn't use a little turnaround either.
Yeah, that's numerous times I've seen delivery trucks, propane, fuel truck, just
Side of the road.
Park in the road and throw the four ways on.
True.
Drag their hose.
Yeah.
Again, the answer to every question,
I don't think it's gonna have any.
in terms of the environment, if it doesn't have an effect on the environment, it doesn't have an effect on the environment. That's one of the 5 questions. So,
Yep.
depends on which one you want to give the most weight to.
Yeah,
I would say from an environment standpoint, I think it's a pretty area of Pompey. And I don't think the house is prettier than the landscape. That being said, the house is nice, it's cute, it's okay, so. I would say, I think I have to say it does affect the environment, but I don't know that I would rate that one very heavy for me.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I give it a maybe anyway.
It's a pretty area, I agree with that.
Okay. And the last one, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
That's a big yes.
There's a long paragraph here. Again, I'm not sure I can even encapsulate it fairly. Talks about the site plan that was submitted earlier with the application and used for the building permit. Showed what it showed, and the other one showed something different. The idea of the variance being self-created is, did the applicant create this condition? And I have to say yes, as self-created. The law was there. It didn't change. Usually self-created, it has been interpreted as a applicant takes an action and subsequently town board makes a change to the zoning. Well, that certainly wasn't their fault. That's about the only time I've seen it used that it was not self-created.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a point? I know the public hearing's closed, but in reading that, I think it's important to note that the surveyor on the survey for August 29th actually had been out to the property and made a decision as to the location because he moved the house. And that was 2 months before the hearing, the first request for a variance. And I gotta assume that was in front of you guys. I mean, I know that it doesn't justify anything, but somebody went out and made that determination way before the hearing.
Just for the record, 2 of us weren't here at that meeting. 2 of the members here were not at that.
Right.
I wasn't here either. So I'm just trying to figure out what
We
happened.
did not have voters.
But I just can't believe the surveyor didn't say anything, didn't get that to you guys before that.
No, I don't, not sure that has any bearing on being self-created. The applicant didn't have to build a house here, and
His
Have to build it.
survey is only for 4 days apart, 5 days apart.
so I have to side with, yes, it was self-created.
I agree.
I agree.
I've always said that you have to say you have to back.
Yep.
So,
How much you waited is a
Yeah,
different
I
question.
mean.
Right.
there's people that aren't, that last one.
okay, those are the conditions, criteria that we have to consider. And the result is that we weigh the impact of those, balance the benefit to the applicant versus detriment to the community. Any comments, any thoughts? Be quiet.
When I read this detriment to the health, safety and welfare of the community, what does the board believe that in the community in which this house is, or the neighborhood in which this house is, be the biggest detriment? And it can't be a hypothetical situation where you're thinking about somebody backing into the back. That can happen in any driveway, anywhere.
It's legal to back into a drive. Illegal to back out.
You want to back out?
You're not supposed to back out of a driveway.
Kevin, I would say that in my thought on your question is the detriment is if the house didn't need a variance and could have been back the 18 more feet, that would have been more in tune with what the neighborhood is. So I would say the overall detriment to the community is the placement of the house, which is why they're asking for a variance. And I'm, at this point, I'm kind of struggling with how to give an 18-foot variance or 19 feet, whatever we call it. Because I think the house should not have been placed that close, because it's not like the other houses in the area.
And again, I'm trying to here, all my goal is to determine who said you could build the house there. And if the owner said, okay, the owner does what they're told and says, yep, let's build the house here. Who determined where here is?
The owner.
The
No, the owner did. The owner
Yeah.
submitted an application for a building permit. And the building permit was based on a survey,
And it got built.
right? Based on that survey.
Yeah, it didn't get built.
I think
according to that
it
survey.
always has to come back to the owner. It doesn't matter who you're hiring. You have to make sure you're following all these rules. They're on the website.
Depends on how the contracts go.
Yeah.
Two surveys.
Well, you,
Responsibility.
right. Yeah,
Everything that goes.
I guess if someone else has
Yeah.
the responsibility, then it could
Yeah.
go back
Could go
on who
back
had
on
the
you.
responsibility.
Do you believe there's is your concern that there's some responsibility somewhere other than with the owner?
Yeah, we had that last month.
Okay,
I'm trying to not be hypocritical here. I'm trying not to say, yeah, it was okay for you, but it's not okay.
I
for
think
you.
the difference, are we talking about the height one left on
Correct.
this? They got the building permit though, and that's how they plan to build it. This building permit wasn't built on how they plan to do
Yeah,
it.
their plan they submitted was approved.
right.
This plan,
As,
as stated, right?
yeah,
Then why did you build if?
Well, it's, the two surveys are 6 days apart. They're both several months before the first hearing that you had for variance. I think everybody was the impression that the August 29th survey is what you guys had.
Clear that.
Right, so that's where the error was. So,
haven't.
She's not an attorney, she doesn't.
Our variance wasn't based on a building. We approved the lot to build on.
I just asked Jim, when did the permit get submitted? It was, I see if we can find a date on that, but.
Well, it had to be done after the variance was granted.
Yeah.
No, what
No,
doesn't-
we could have
That was
said
first,
it got rejected.
Oh, yeah, because it has to be rejected.
Right.
first.
Yeah.
and that's when I was instructed to submit the variance application.
Sarah came in and she brought the wrong surveyor, obviously,
Well, it
whatever.
was
And we
already
sent the right survey.
submitted.
The girls' office sent you first survey in, but they were both available.
When your initial question, Kevin, was about the detriment to the community. And I think we've heard some of that here tonight. And we heard similar comments a year ago. There were 14 people sitting here saying they didn't see that something too close to the road there is what they were saying, and now it's too close to the road, and that was one of their concerns. So, that's at least a visual, physical detriment to the community.
When we granted the variance a year ago, that was because the property was under 1 acre. Do we remember how much of a variance we?
I think it was
15%.
Yeah, 0.85, I think is what
Yeah.
the lot is.
So 15% variance from an acre.
Yeah, may or may not be considered significant, but that answers my question.
Was it the depth of the lot and the road frontage?
Yeah. Depth was, I don't remember the numbers.
I
I
think
had it.
170 I wrote down.
Okay. 200,
Mhm.
it was 200 minimum.
Well, the road frontage appears to be 211.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the road frontage was okay.
So it wasn't the road frontage.
No, it was the depth of the lot.
Depth of the lot.
Front to back.
Well, I would say that's what made it easier to approve that variance, because it was a depth thing, not a road frontage thing.
Right.
Yeah, I say at that point, was there any chance that this board should have picked up on? They put a house too close to the road, even though that's not what they were asking for at that point.
No, that map
There's a lot.
showed it was 50 feet on
Yeah.
that map you guys looked at.
But the depth of the lot. You could put a house on that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but was there ever, as the applicant has asked, was there ever potential that there was a survey put in front of us that we could have said, oh, by the way, that's not in the right place?
Where's the survey? Where's the?
The original
The one that-
From the
survey.
20.
That's the one.
This is what was submitted.
Oh, we know that for sure?
Yes, this is what was submitted with the variance for the lot size.
Those are my notes from the meeting.
Okay, and there's 51 feet to the road boundary.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that answered my, thank you.
And this is the map that was submitted with the building.
Yeah.
And this one mysteriously appeared, but this was the 29th feet a few days later.
6 days later.
Yeah, but I got,
I don't know, I don't know where that.
Other than
That one was in our email that came with the application, I think, from the 29th.
For tonight. For tonight.
Yeah.
And then they brought another one tonight with October 30th date.
right.
But the 29th one, then my point is that it was available. And Sarah, she didn't know what was submitted. She was here all alone.
Okay, but that's not reason enough to give a variance because the applicant didn't know what they were doing.
I agree, but it was a mistake. And
Again, that mistake is not reason enough to have a variance.
well, it goes to the self-created issue. I think it takes a little bit of time.
Well, we had a variance request a year ago. We had a survey in front of us that did not indicate any road frontage and setback issues. Granted a variance because we really only needed depth of 15%. That seemed reasonable. And I feel like somebody's saying, well, you might have seen another survey that could have been available a few years later.
It's not your.
And technically, that's not what we were waiting on. And we don't think we saw it because there's no evidence that we did see it.
No, I'm just saying that it's dated 6 days apart and she should have had it.
Again, the lack of knowledge doesn't fit with the variance.
I got it. I understand. I just wanted to see the whole picture.
I guess going through the whole thing, I'm still struggling with giving a variance.
I would make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to deny this request.
okay. So we have a second to that motion?
I'll give you the second on it.
Okay,
As much as I'd like to find reason not to, I can't.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think
I
I
agree.
can either, so. Any further comments or discussion? All right, we have a motion on the table to deny the application as presented. All those in favor, say, oh, no, need a roll call, please.
Where you want to
I'm
start?
gonna ask Sarah to call the roll of the board. No, please.
Okay, Sierra Haynes. I will vote for, to deny the application. David Howe,
Deny.
David Tessier,
Good night.
Evan Sharp,
Based on the information that we've been presented. And whose point fingers is very difficult here, but I can't see possibly approving the side, deny.
Don Muglebauer.
Deny as well.
Okay, that's 5-0. The application is denied. I thank you for your patience, audience. Cooperation with our town rules and regulations. I am still. Truly. Thank you for your comments for the meeting. We may have an item for next meeting. I think we do have one on the next meeting. We're gonna know. So see you all in December. Do you have a motion to close the meeting tonight?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
And motion's made and seconded to close tonight's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? Thanks again. Meeting adjourned.